From Immersive Labs, this is Cyber Humanity. Hello all, I'm your host Chris Pace, and in these podcasts we try to look at cybersecurity from a human point of view, social engineering, hacker motivations, industry trends and more. These podcasts essentially come in two flavours, either us ranting about themes close to the hearts of security types, or us chatting about threat and security stuff from recent weeks. There has been plenty of that, so this is one of those. And as usual, I'm joined by Max Vetter.
Hello.
Paul Bentham.
Hello.
And Kev Breen.
Hello.
There is only one place for us to begin this week, and that is the Twitter sphere. Oh my goodness, what went on with Twitter? It was an evening, I was minding my own business, scrolling through my timeline, and then suddenly it was full of things about blue ticks and trying to get me to buy cryptocurrency, and it all went a little bit mad after that. So, what actually went on?
Well, it was brilliant. Like Elon Musk said, if I gave him 1,000 bitcoins, he'd give me 2,000 back. Loved it.
Perfect. I mean, like, I was straight there, like, sending all of my Bitcoin
Barack
to
Obama
get it
did
double
the
back.
same thing.
Why wouldn't you?
Because that's all I need. All I need is for someone verified on Twitter to ask for my money, and then I will hand it over
Really
without
sad,
asking
though.
any questions.
Look at the replies. If you look at the replies, people are like, I really hope he's going to do this. I'm like, oh, God. I
You
guess
don't have
1,000 bitcoins a lot, isn't it, though?
Thousand
Well, it was
pounds,
$1,000.
in
Not
It
1,000
wasn't.
coins.
Oh, okay.
But if you actually look and track the wallet, there's like $117,000 went into that wallet. So people were actually sending stuff
Yeah,
in.
but I actually don't think that's very much because that's only 100 people, right? If you spend 1,000 each, and for the number of users that each of those Twitter accounts had.
I mean,
Max Big Deep Pockets better. It's only £100,000. That's a decent yacht, Max.
We haven't done the maths around how many people this might have given those hackers reach to, but it's like millions and
Must be
millions and
millions and
millions, right?
Yeah.
So with some slightly
percentage.
better advertising, they probably could have conned a lot more money.
But if you own £1,000 of Bitcoin, surely you're going to have a bit of nous about you to go. You can't, if you send Bitcoin somewhere, it just doesn't come back. I realised that the first Bitcoin purchase I made, I was like, the problem with this whole system is when you send it, there is nothing. There's no insurance, and it's gone. And that's the realisation of, if that person doesn't send me the goods that I bought, then that's it.
anybody who wants to give away money is just going to give away money. Why do I have to send you money? I mean, that's the first clue. Anybody that says, give me £1, I'll give you $2, like, just give me the £1. Like, why do we have to do the exchange? Like, that's your first giveaway that something's not right there.
Yeah, send me your money first. That's always the...
Okay, so I think we've gone down a rabbit hole here with the Bitcoin thing.
Yes, yeah. I'm sat here thinking, well, this is all very interesting Bitcoin chat. What about the the Twitter thing? I think the Bitcoin scam is not new. I think that scam has existed in spam emails and stuff like that before. I'm pretty sure. But of course, what's more interesting is the fact that these are extremely high-profile Twitter accounts. I forget the number. Someone will know the number. But basically, it was a load of really high-profile, verified, so the infamous or famous blue tick. They were the ones that were targeted, and essentially they were all simultaneously overtaken. And these messages were sent out to the obviously millions of followers that those particular users have on Twitter. And then it turned out that it was actually because it may have seemed that someone had been hacked, but actually it turned out that it was a hack of Twitter itself. So gaining access to Twitter itself. So how did they go about doing that?
My favourite bit about this. Hang on, right? I don't think they've hacked Twitter, but the thing you've missed about is who the they are. So the they here is allegedly a group of people that like to be called original gangsters, and they're called this. And I didn't know anything about this until I started reading up about it. They love owning original, like, early handles. So this whole thing started because a group of people who called OGs, or original gangsters, wanted to own like single character early on Twitter handles, like @6 or @Y or whatever. And I love this because I have a little bit of a sadness in my heart because I used to have a really early ICQ number. I had like a 4-digit, which frankly was quite exciting back in the
Gold
day.
dust.
Gold dust. I forgot the password, and I don't know why. I could never reset the account, and so I lost it. And so I actually have an affinity for these kids, and I think it's kids who really wanted to own at Y or at 6 because they probably just wanted to be an original gangster, and that's what I want to be too.
Is this Paul the Vigilante approving of
No,
hacks again?
no, absolutely not. So these kids, they wanted to get hold of original handles, and so this whole thing was a hack for the lols. It wasn't for Bitcoin at all. They didn't even hack Twitter. They took over an internal tool.
Yes, it was a tool used by Twitter admins to be able to make changes to accounts. That's what was actually compromised, and I'm not sure whether it was access to that or if they compromised somebody, so whether it was somebody on the inside. There's still a little bit of a mixed message on
Well,
that.
we don't want to speculate too much, but let's rampantly speculate. You'd want to feel like it would have to involve someone on the inside up to a point, or some crafty social engineering to get close enough to that information. I think I heard bandied about the username and password that was pinned to some Slack channel somewhere, which
that's
even
what I
if
was
it was the case, would still mean that you would need to have access to that Slack channel, which suggests you would still have to have access to some other, internal systems at Twitter. So, yeah, it's either a very strong bit of social engineering or someone from the inside was involved.
And this ties back to people you'll see in some of the articles there relating it and the user to something called simjacking, and this is the same kind of approach where simjacking was you had somebody on the inside of something like AT&T, and you would get them on the inside to switch your phone numbers or the IMEI so that you could gain control of that account. It's the same process here. Like at some point, you must have had access to the inside to know that tool exists, and then to gain access to it.
It's interesting, though. I mean, because you're saying this whole thing about... I don't understand how there's a connection between the OG thing and taking over those accounts. I don't understand how that meets their goal.
They sell for money.
Okay, so the idea is that they were going to... Yeah, but if they were going to take over those accounts and sell access to them for money, they could have done that completely stealthily without doing any of this Bitcoin... without any of this Bitcoin nonsense happening.
I think what happened though, well, allegedly what happened, what the articles are saying is that they took over a few accounts and then they got spotted. So one of the owners of an account, and then I think
At 6.
it was at 6, yeah. So at 6 spotted that their account. Oh, and it's actually really interesting.
This is really clever.
Yeah, because the way that this takeover works is you use the internal tool to change the email address registered to the account. Then by having that email address, you can change the second factor authentication method that's registered to the account, whether that's an app or a phone number.
Because it doesn't send a notification when you make the change from the admin tool, so you don't know.
But
that seems like a bit of a flaw.
But at 6's was using his Google Voice account, and so he got a phone call to say, or I guess it was the second factor digit to say that his account had changed, and that's how at 6 spotted it. And so then, when they knew the game was up, they decided to go with the... I don't know what then happened, but they just thought, well, let's just burn it all. And then they just went with a really crappy Bitcoin scam.
People started to mention straight away, why was Donald Trump safe from all this? They obviously have a whole team of people at Twitter who are both monitoring his account for what he says and also making sure that it hasn't been hacked.
Yeah. Well, it's 17.
How can you tell the difference?
It's 17 factor authentication for Trump. I'm expecting there's a whole it's going to be locked down. When he nearly started World War III the last time he tweeted something bad. What was that thing he did? Was it with North Korea that he was tweeting?
Something to do with basically insulting the
little
the
rocket
leader of
man.
North Korea. Yeah.
So the other thing that's happening on this that's really interesting is Krebs. Now, Chris, I don't know that you're Krebs' biggest fan, are you?
I rate a lot of what Brian Krebs does, and there certainly can be no argument that, as journalism goes, it's it's in depth, and it's what the community, it's what InfoSec needs. You need the detail behind the tech and the motivations. You need all that stuff. I think where I have a problem with what's happened here and in over last week is that it's kind of doing a lot of OSINT, doing the investigation, and then getting a name out there. I think that adds risk. I think all that research could have been done and all that information could have been shared without the need to put a real name out there. Especially when these are the kinds of things that he discourages the sharing of information, about techniques and that kind of stuff. He often discourages that. Like, he feels that vendors in particular, security vendors in particular, overshare and shouldn't be saying as much about what techniques are being used. But my view is that sharing someone's name before due process without real evidence and implying that it's kind of game, set, match, this person is responsible, I think is a bit irresponsible.
It's dangerous.
And is risky, given given the sort of widely publicized nature of the hack. And I think it just sort of flies in the face of the way that the justice system is supposed to work.
People lost real money during that. People were actively conned in that, and they'll have been conned by other things that they'll tie together. And internet vigilantes, and we've seen it all the time, where somebody says it was this guy, and they go out and some random guy sees him on the street, kicks 10 bells of stuff into him, and then turns out, it wasn't him. So it's incredibly dangerous to do that kind of stuff. Plus, you're tainting evidence, so any future investigation is going to be tainted, so that they might lose evidence. It's a dangerous game to play.
I think Mr. O'Connor, as he was identified, the 21-year-old British man from Liverpool, was in Spain having a massage at the time, so I think he's all right. I think he's fine.
I heard he'd gone to get his eyes tested in Durham, no? Okay, I mean, this is somewhere between just good old-fashioned scamming and the abhorrent cryptocurrency mining. But anything to do with cryptocurrency, I think, is just a lazy way of trying. That's a lazy thing to do if you've hacked someone, right? So if we had gone to that effort to do that social engineering, to get access to those internal systems, and to get access to Apple's Twitter account, what would we do?
I'm reading Trump's DMs. That's where
Straight
I'm
into
going.
Trump
There's comedy gold in there. I'm telling you.
Comedy? You mean World War III? He's tweeted at Putin on his DMs because he won't have deleted them, would he?
No.
But I mean, look at all the people you could have gone with in terms of Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Joe Biden. Any of those, or Kanye West, or whatever, you could. I know when AP got hacked, didn't they? And they said Barack Obama was injured in an attack on the
10% off the share price.
Yeah,
immediately, wasn't it?
You, if you were clever about it, you could make
short
millions
in the
stock.
Short the stock on Apple. That's what we would have done, wouldn't we?
Or
Apple,
Elon Musk.
Amazon,
You could beat Elon Musk and say something
he'd
ridiculous
get fined again.
again.
We get Elon fined again.
You could
Nobody would believe if you just did Elon
SpaceX.
Musk as well. Nobody would realize it was a hack.
You think he was just having another late night? It's like Trump.
Or Elon's trying to get people to short his stock for some reason. He wants to buy someone out or something.
I think you'd play the long game, wouldn't you? You'd keep it, you'd keep the tool, you'd sneak in, take over an account, send a tweet that maybe is believable, maybe it's not, and then just sneak out and shape. You could shape the course of an election. You could change the whole. I know what you could do. November, whatever it is, the night before the election. Donald Trump tweets
anything.
Don't vote for me, vote for Biden. I've had enough. And if you time that right, you change the whole election. And can you imagine the absolute storm that would be the legal process that went on after that? They'd be locked in courts for ages. Oh, well, I never read the tweets. I would have voted for Biden anyway. La, 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 la. It'd be there. Years.
This is the same as the Cambridge Analytica thing, the disinformation thing. You could argue that Joe Biden tweeting about Bitcoin, like, or tweeting asking for Bitcoin, there is an argument that is disinformation. That is, yeah. So there's a whole load of potential challenges wrapped up with Twitter as a mechanism for wider forms of public communication. There is that's just a whole can of worms anyway. But I think clearly what we've identified is that with access to those accounts, there is not only damage that could be done, but there is a huge amount of influence that could have been exerted. But instead, they used it to earn cryptocurrency.
You know, it does make me think though. I'm not really one for nationalising things, but
Have you listened to last week's episode?
we've already ascertained I barely listen to you guys, let alone myself, on these things. I look forward to the episodes coming out so I can learn what was going on. But Twitter has a lot of power right now, right? As a medium. And what's interesting is we're all here going, whoa, if we could take over. Well, somebody is in charge of that. Like, there are people with...
They could take over. Yeah.
That Twitter, like the employees of Twitter, who we've not security verified, that they've not got... they're able to do this, evidently, because they somehow lost control of it to some kids in a original gangsters forum. That whole... power that they have, should that be in the hands of a private company? I mean, we had this. Have you read Full Circle? Is it Full Circle? No, what's the Circle or the Circle? Yeah, that whole book, like that whole power in the hands of social media in that kind of dystopian book is. Like, you could see it going that way with Twitter, couldn't you?
Just a public service announcement on The Circle. The book is not bad, but do not watch the film. It is utterly terrible.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
That's all I wanted to say, Kev. You can carry on.
I would say that Twitter's response to this was hammer to it. Is they stopped all verified accounts being able to tweet. Like, that was just their first two. Like, it's just like nobody's going to tweet. They also banned, for a period, like tweeting anything that looked like a cryptocurrency address. So some threat intel sharing platforms that used to share hashes, which look very similar to them, were suddenly stopped from sharing threat intel because Twitter just put in this blanket ban of tweeting these things.
Which doubles down on Paul's point then, which is. This is a thing so important that people use it every day, and then someone just decides to turn it off because they got hacked. And it's like, what if someone was tweeting something, I don't know, emergency forces? People use Twitter for all kinds of things now, and they just go, "Oh, we're not going to let you." It's like that might have had some real ramifications to that. You don't know. The same with Facebook, isn't it? The power of these networks now, and they're only social media. They're not a publisher, which is all going through the courts, isn't it? Facebook says they don't have to police anything that goes on there because they're not a publisher. They can send all the fake news out, and it's just whatever we share.
Twitter are hiring now, so they've just launched some new job adverts, hiring people to come in to do like machine learning and analytics, so they can identify fake news quicker and how they respond to it. So, like, to their credit, they are, at least from the outside, taking this seriously.
They seem to be doing it more than Facebook do, especially with the fake news stuff.
Yeah. I'm quite impressed though, and we know why they're better is because Zuckerberg doesn't care, and like at least Jack does a little bit. But what I'm quite impressed with Twitter is that when this was all kicking off, within like I don't know how was it, like half an hour that they stopped all the blue ticks tweeting. They were able to put some pretty serious filtering that like match this pattern, stop the tweet, match this account, stop. Like they've thought about this. They've thought about what would happen if there was like a widespread compromise of accounts, and they've been able to quickly push some buttons.
I mean, God, of course they have. Surely, I would be astonished if that wasn't like for them. Considering what does a crisis look like for Twitter, it looks like this, doesn't it? It looks like mass account takeover.
It wasn't just account takeover. So, like, Twitter then kicked into investigation mode, and I think they've confirmed that some of those accounts had the download my Twitter data button clicked. So
eight of those accounts.
Yeah, so whichever 8 of those accounts are, like somebody's got access to like the entire tweet history, the DM history, like there's potentially sensitive data in there as well.
Could this keep going?
One publicly elected official in the Netherlands had his Twitter data in his DMs access.
Sorry, is it not sexy enough for you, Paul?
Paul wants more.
Yeah, like an obscure Dutch.
But it does make the point, doesn't it? How the way that public officials, not just those in the public eye or celebrities, how they interact with Twitter and what they use it for, suddenly comes into quite sharp focus when we think about this kind of hack. So although the Netherlands is not particularly sexy, it makes a point, doesn't it, about the risk.
Don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against the Dutch. Some of my favourite people are Dutch.
Did we get to understanding how this might have actually happened? Twitter obviously are not giving anything away. Kev, you alluded to the sim jacking thing, and I think that's been referred to in the Krebs article as well. What does that actually mean? Like, what is the process that needs to be gone through in order for that to work, to get them access to these internal systems?
It's just knowing somebody. So it's typically somebody disenfranchised or some junior guy who has that level of access and is trying to show off to a wider crowd. Like, this is nothing new. This is like proper old school social engineering. Somebody knows somebody who works at Twitter, and it's like, let's get friendly, let's get him on IRC, let's get him on like OG forums, let's get him hooked, let's get him talking, and then just convert him and say, wouldn't it be funny if? And you typically start off with something small, like, I want to sell access to this really nobody account, and like, it's nothing important, and like, you'll make you $50 out of it. Like, for somebody who doesn't know, it's like a gateway drug. Like, start off small, like convince them in, get them doing something that doesn't really feel bad but is, and then like once you've got that, then they're yours. You own them. So then you can go, great. Let's take a verified account and then give me access. Let me take control, and away you go from there. Now, we're not entirely sure if that's exactly how it happened, but we've seen that pattern, that technique used in other social engineering attacks, like with old school simjacking.
The only other thing I was thinking about this is that these people in these OG forums seem to be throwing a lot of money around to get a like low number Twitter account, but they wouldn't have owned it for long. Like, they've spent 10k, I think it is, in some of the screenshots. Like, hey, yeah, I'll give you 10k, I'll give you your @6. You're only going to own it for an hour or so. Are they spending Bitcoin like it's monopoly money because it's easy come, easy go? Like, if I was there, like,
it used to be.
I'm going to use my mum's credit card to pay $10,000 for @6 for 40 minutes. Like, is it just because they're using Bitcoin and it doesn't feel like real money?
If this is all true, all of the background to this story, if it's all true, it is amazing the lengths that people are prepared to go to get some kudos. Like that, because that is basically what we're talking about. They're only surely raising their hands to say it was them in their in their little community, right? In their OG gang or on their OG forum. So, yeah, it's a big commitment for a bit of kudos.
Sometimes kudos is what's important, especially if you're trying to move up to get into like bigger criminal gangs. Like, you have to prove that you're capable. You have to prove that you're willing to go the distance. Maybe that's one of those checks.
But it also shows you how, if they can do it and they're just the OG forum, right? Now, how easy would it be for a government or anyone else to do it?
Yeah, I mean, the New York Times article, like, the identity of Kirk, his motivations, whether he shared his access to Twitter with anyone else, remains a mystery even to the people who worked with him. It's unclear how much Kirk uses access to the accounts of people like Mr. Biden and Musk. It'll be. I don't even know if Twitter will reveal everything about like how it happened. They'll just tell us this is what they're doing to fix it.
And now we're going to talk very briefly about flaming USBs, because apparently hackers can trick our chargers into destroying our devices. And that's the dark, dark world that we're living in now. So, first of all, that feels very Thunder Spy-ish to me. Paul's favourite evil maid attack ever.
Bond style.
Yeah. But second of all, it feels like the kind of thing that's probably never actually going to get exploited.
So this isn't USB. This isn't USB port. So this is the actual charger, so the thing that you plug into the wall. And so before you used to charge like 5 volts really, really slowly. So phones would take like all night to charge. Now we have this concept of fast charging. So you plug your phone in, or a modern phone in, and you can get like 4 hours of battery life in 5 minutes. Enough to go. This is what they call fast charging, and the way it works is you have a smart adapter. So like modern Apple ones, modern Google ones, you plug your phone in. Your phone actually talks to the charger and goes, I can fast charge this phone, and the charger says, great, I'm going to just pump power at you. Or it says, I can only take a slow charge, and the device will go, fine, I'm going to charge you really slowly. The idea behind this attack is that you can compromise a phone with like an application that when the phone plugs into the charger, the phone tells the charger, send me all of the power immediately, all at once. So the chargers goes fine, like have all the power. And this actually causes them to like overheat, burst into flames, set on fire. And just that amount of voltage going into your phone can actually physically damage the device as well. You're right. It sounds fun. We've seen attacks like this with like USB killer, but like it's not practical. It's very hard to do, and it's not every device.
What do you mean by USB killer?
And we might have talked about this before, but USB killer is one of my favorite inventions from about a decade ago. It's a USB device full of capacitors. And you plug it's a USB stick, you plug it into USB port, and it draws power from your laptop, charging up the capacitors. As soon as those capacitors are full, it switches over and dumps all of that stored voltage down the data lines back into your laptop, just frying your laptop. And there was a kid, you can buy them online, they're like $50, like you can just buy them anywhere. And there's a kid who got one and went around all the schools, all the computers in his school, just plugging it in. Takes a couple of seconds, like you hear the pop and the thing, and then just walk up to the next computer in the library, just plugging it in, and just walked around just destroying hardware all around his school. They caught him, and like he got arrested, and I definitely got fined. But yeah, this kind of attack isn't necessarily new. It's a novel way of tricking the charger into doing something it shouldn't.
I think it's got a great name.
BadPower.
Yeah, it's a good name. I'm going to give that 7.
I'm not that high. Like it's a 5 or a 6, maybe.
I think we're coloured by the fact that it's kind of a meh. Like, it's a great bit of research. It's a great bit of research. But the headline I'm reading is, and this is back to a conversation that we were having a couple of weeks ago, hackers can now trick USB chargers to destroy your devices. Whereas actually, the article does not say that. The article says that researchers found a way that this could, but it doesn't say that like it's happening or being done or like just, yeah.
There's an easy way for hackers to do it as well. You just go onto 4chan and you put a picture up saying that iPhones are now chargeable in a microwave and watch Twitter getting flooded with people microwaving their phones.
That's good.
Or drilling holes in them.
Oh no! What was the one? What was the one on Twitter?
Headphone
Like
socket.
don't screenshot this or something like that. That
That's a Samsung.
blew up
yeah.
on Twitter.
The Samsung, yeah. That was valid though. Like if you screenshot
did it.
that actually put your phone into a boot loop.
And loads of people did it.
But people did
Loads
it.
of people did
Yeah,
it.
But the guy that posted the tweet actually said, "Whatever you
Said,
do,
"Don't do
not
this."
do this."
Don't press the big red button.
But that's the thing with the USB killer and this one. It sounds like it's kind of all just a bit fun for script kiddies, but if you do that in a plane or in a train or bad things can happen.
If you plug that into a USB port on a plane's infotainment system, like we've seen planes burst onto fire because of the thermal protection on those things.
Yeah. So that's Paul's face.
Paul, have you not ever wondered why they're so keen on making sure you unplug those USB cables when you're just about to take off?
No, I'm actually just kind of amused. Like, that everybody's like, well, this is funny. Like, watch all this like USB stuff destroy planes. I'm like, The other thing is, like, is it? Well, you're getting it the other way around. It's the phone tells the charger to give it more charge. Nobody's compromising chargers; they're compromising phones. And if you compromised a phone, you're not going to make the charger overcharge it. You're going to do something a lot more interesting, like put crypto miners on it.
you can actually compromise the charger. So
Yeah, it blows the charger.
it's the
No, but the
so
phone tells the charger to
the
send it
first-
too much charge.
No, the first plugin rewrites the firmware.
Oh, on the charger.
The second plugin, yeah. So I can get my phone, plug it into your charger, set the firmware, and then the next time you plug into it, your phone would get done.
Yeah,
So-
but you've reprogrammed that from my phone. You've somebody's
so
left a charger lying around.
Yeah, somebody's left the charger lying around. I can take my phone up to the charger.
Right. Don't plug your
Assuming it
public
hasn't
service
already been
announcement.
done.
Public service announcement. If you don't own the charger, don't plug your phone into it.
That, in fairness, that is not just a public service announcement. That is a common courtesy to other people. Some of the ridiculous attitudes that there are to using other people's charging devices drive me
Is that a no-
mental.
is that a
Like
no-no
people
for
look
you?
at you and say, "Oh, your phone's plugged in. Could I use your charger?" And you say, "Well, no, it's charging my phone." And then they say, "Oh, how much battery have you got?" Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hang on, my friend. We're not getting into a debate here about how much charge I've got and how much charge you've got. That charger is mine.
Is this in
My
your living room?
phone.
Is
Something
this
really
in your
big.
living room?
It's just with your wife.
In what situation
Yes.
do you ever have these conversations?
We all know it's mainly at work.
Oh, it's at work. Sorry about that, Chris. I won't use your charger again.
You've almost certainly done it before. You look like a classic, but I've only got 12% kind of person.
No, I have USB-C on my phone, so I can charge it on anything.
So, Charming Kitten, or APT35, has been in the news this week after X-Force's IBM X-Force, the security team, they're the kind of threat intelligence team. They uncovered 5 hours of videos, leaked videos, of them basically showing them hacking stuff. I guess that's what it was. We don't know because none of us have really been able to see what the videos are. Kev, I think there were some screenshots, but there was content out there, but it's not available. It's not a thing that the rest of us can just go and see.
No. Yeah, so X-Force, IBM, they wouldn't release any of it, like rightly or wrongly, and the original article was in Wired, and they shared them with Wired and told them to immediately delete them. From the screenshots, the descriptions we've got, this is all about how to use accounts that you've hijacked. So the specific examples they give are they're teaching other hackers how to very quickly go into Outlook Web Access, into Outlook, into Gmail accounts, download everything, and then clear out again and like clear it behind yourself. So just like really efficiently taking control of social media accounts and getting that data and email accounts and moving on. So
What's going on? A misconfiguration of the security settings on the virtual private cloud server. So that's never happened before.
yeah.
So good old Iranian hackers are the same as everyone else.
Well, so Iranian hackers have had a really bad time the last couple of years. They had their entire tool set leaked as well. Like all of their custom malware, their custom implants, all of that was leaked as well. So.
That happens to the best of us, though.
This is true. There isn't an organisation in the world that can't say their toolkit's been leaked. I'm hoping at some point some more of that becomes public. It was like 40 or 50 gigs worth of video clips, tools, documents, data that was all just exposed in this VPC. So like there's a lot of rich intelligence in there, and I think IBM have done the right thing. At least I hope they're doing the right thing in sharing that correctly with other intelligence services and not just holding it for their own commercial gain. But if they are correctly sharing some of that information with research groups, with AV vendors and things like that, that's some really powerful intelligence that's getting shared with the community.
Yeah, they were saying there were clues in the data there that they'd been also targeting like US military personnel, that they'd been targeting State Department staff. So it's kind of it seemed to be a bit of an affirmation from the data that this group are probably a state-sponsored group, and that they're that they're out of Iran. Or they just, it's interesting. In the story, they're kind of and Andy Greenberg has written the story. Andy Greenberg, I'm sure you guys all know, is he's probably like the most famous cyber security journalist there is now, I guess. Close your ears, Brian Krebs. But he calls them Iran-backed, and I think there's some quite interesting stuff around how we decide to name hacking groups, not just how they're named, because we can have a big old rant about how they're named, but how they're described. I always find quite interesting, like state-sponsored or Iran-backed. But what does that actually what does that actually mean? Does that mean they're basically are they like mercenaries? Are they like guns for hire? Like how does it work? What makes them like state sponsored rather than they just work for the PLA or whatever it is?
All those things are true. They have hackers on staff, they have contractors, they have freelancers, like they have people who will do it on your behalf. So people who are sympathetic to your intentions will do some hack and then you can claim it as your own.
Isn't this part of the problem with attribution as well, though? That they'll say, well, they're definitely attacking people for Iran, but we can't tell whether they're actually working in Iran itself or they're just being paid by Iran. So it kind of covers them if they just go Iran.
Well, but I think it's more political sleight of hand, isn't it? So if you're a Western government and you're looking at attribution of who did this thing, and it's charming Kitten, but it's not literally Iranian government actors, it's state-sponsored Iranian government-sponsored actors. That is one step removed, so you don't start World War 2, 3, not on that. 3, definitely 3, we've had 2.
We've already had a 2.
A bit behind the times there.
History never strong point.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of interesting things in there other than the fact that it's been released. Like I think the interesting thing comes further down the line when hopefully more of that information is revealed publicly, so we can start to see some of that.
I don't think we've really covered what this video looks like, though. Is it like a screen capture, or is it swordfish style, 9 screens, large glass of red wine, hacking while somebody's doing stuff to you whilst you're trying to hack?
So from the descriptions, it seems to be it's screen recordings, maybe some voiceover
boring
stuff. Yeah.
Is it like cybersecurity training for the Iranian hackers? Is that what it is? So they're like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Most
Yeah,
of
that's
people were
exactly
hoping
what
it was going to end up
Yeah.
in cyber area, weren't they? So they could
Yeah, it's literally teaching them how to. So if you've managed to gain access to somebody's Gmail account or to their Outlook account, it shows you step by step how you go in, how you download all of that data, save it off, archive it, and then clean up after yourself.
Well, we should put some of that in our platform.
All right, we're going to wrap up with random ransom of the week.
The ransomware guys are having a tough time of it. The same way we are. The Maze Team official press release of July 2020. The whole world is in pandemic and deep economy crisis. We are also in the same reality with the whole world. In this situation, we have to announce news about further communication with our current and new clients and data processing of their info. This is the so Maze ransomware group. This is their
Data
announcement.
processing.
I love their PR.
Yeah.
Their PR is better,
It would take now 3 days from the moment of attack till the publishing of the client's information on our website. If you have failed to start communication in 3 days, you can only blame yourself for the reputational damage and financial loss. Negotiation means a dialogue. Basically, what they're saying is you've only got 10 days to pay now, down from their previous 30 days, and that clock starts on day 3. Because they're suffering in this. In these
Aged
economic
receivables is the killer for most businesses. It's cash flow. Cash flow is king, and if you've got aged receivables and you can't get your accounts paid in time, I can totally support that. Reduce payment terms down to 10 days. Much better for your cash flow. Better sustainability for your business.
And Paul the Vigilante on board with the ransomware guys again.
Oh, actually,
and like they're holding.
I've been feeling bad about this. We did a crisis sim launch with Phil Venables from Goldman Sachs, and I thought every single time I was like, like voting on the old Slido poll to say like what we should do in the crisis. I was like, pay the ransomware. And Phil Venables every time said it's really unethical to pay the ransomware, and I started feeling a bit bad that maybe I was on the wrong side of history about this.
Really? To be honest, Paul, a lot of the time you're on the wrong side of the law.
Maze, true to their word, they are publishing data. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies on their list so far at 100% full dump because they didn't pay in time. And they're staging the release. So like day 3 kicks in and the first 3% goes. Then 5%, 10% until day 10, and it's 100% published. So they're not just saying you've got 10 days. Like every day that passes, they're leaking more and more of that data. As probably holding on to the more sensitive things till the end. But there are a lot more companies in that list still pending. Release, so that data's going.
Have we ever tried to do attribution? Has anybody ever tried? Not we, but has anybody tried to do attribution for me? So who are they? Where do they come from?
We've talked about this before, though, because the challenges are around the affiliate nature of it. So it's almost impossible to really know.
Because they don't do a lot of this themselves. They use affiliates to do it for them, and they take the cut. Although
who's running all this PR though? This is like it feels very much more coordinated.
It is, and Maze and Revel or Sonic Kiwi, they're the 2 major players in this space right now. And like Maze are actually doing like their website is nicer and prettier and more responsive.
Maybe they've got a UX team on
Revel. Revel Sonic Kiwi actually went offline earlier this week.
What happened?
Their dark website was taken. We thought for a moment that they might have been like found and taken offline, but they're back up and running now. So small technical hiccup.
Have we got any news on Trump's dump?
You're going to ask every week, and we're going to say no.
Trump's dump.
I think everybody should follow at Ransom Leaks because it's got literally a whole thing about what's going on. It's pretty.
Yes, but this is exactly what Krebs is saying. We shouldn't be talking about. Like we shouldn't be talking about how people are being hacked or any of that stuff.
Why? Why does he say that?
Because we're giving them airtime.
A bit like when you put jihadists on the front, you name jihadists and put them on the front page of papers. You then martyr them, and that perpetuates that whole thing. This is different. These people are making money.
Well, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe, rate, and what?
Hang on, Regatta. They've been ransomware.
What?
Regatta Outdoors, the English family-owned outdoor and leisure clothing company. No, you shouldn't hack them. They're nice.
Anyway, in all seriousness, Kev, do you want to talk about Sigrid?
No, I don't care.
But the Department for Homeland Security cares.
They care, and I'm not sure why. Like, the more I read, the more I see that like there's so many limitations. You must be in Internet Explorer. Like 95% of browser shares at the minute just won't run this exploit, and so many mitigating factors that exploiting this thing is practically
So there's like a wafer thin. There's like a wafer thin window for exploitation.
Yeah. So you need to at the minute with all the stuff they've released, you need to email somebody that needs to open a link on an Internet Explorer, which I mean Edge is the default these days, which doesn't work. And they have to be inside the domain and connect to the DNS server. Like, there's just so many things in that pipeline, and there might even be more mitigating factors that a correctly configured DNS server isn't going to work either, even if you have those other things in place. It's just like, it's so hard to exploit. Like, why even bother? There are easier ways of getting in, like F5.
We don't have any more time to talk about F5. We don't have any more time to talk about anything. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe, rate, and comment wherever you get your audio content. And if you want to know more about Immersive Labs, you can find us at immersivelabs.com or follow us on Twitter at Immersive Labs UK. Until next time, from all of us, goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.